I was 34, a single mother, and the only one in my family with a steady job. To my parents, I wasn't their daughter. I was a walking ATM. My younger sister Kayla, 28, had never kept a job longer than a few months, but she was the golden child. Me, I was the backup plan, the default caretaker. Always available, always disposable. It started small, little things. Kayla's struggling, my mom would say. Help her out a little. So I did. I helped with her tuition, paid for her car repairs, sent money just until she got back on her feet. Only, she never stood up. She never even tried. And my parents, they never stopped asking. They never once asked how I was doing. But I stayed quiet. I thought silence would keep the peace. I didn't realize. Silence was the heaviest price I would ever pay. I lived modestly. A small duplex, rented, nothing fancy. Just me and my daughter Ava. She was 8. Quiet, thoughtful, always watching. Everything I did for her. School lunches, new shoes, dance classes, even when they stretched the budget thin. She never asked for much. And I never wanted her to feel the weight I carried. But she was watching on the day everything changed. It was a Thursday afternoon when the message came from my mom. Rent is due. Help your sister out. We raised you better than this. I stared at my phone for a moment, then put it down. I had just paid for Ava's dental procedure. There was nothing left. No cushion, no backup, and more importantly, I couldn't keep sacrificing my daughter's needs to rescue Kayla from her own decisions. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, they showed up at my door. No warning, no call, just rage. And I should have known. Silence never keeps the storm away. 2 hours later, there was banging on the door. Not knocking, banging, like a debt collector, like I owed them something. I looked through the peephole. It was my mom. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed. That smug expression on his face, the one he always wore right before a lecture. I opened the door slowly. Why aren't you answering our messages? Mom snapped. I already told you, I said, trying to stay calm. I can't pay Kayla's rent this month. Oh, so your daughter's dentist bill is more important than your sister's roof, Dad said, stepping inside. He didn't wait to be invited. He never did. I'm not responsible for her lifestyle, I said firmly. She had choices. She chose not to work. Don't put that on me. That's when it shifted. Mom screamed, threw her purse across the room. You ungrateful brat, she yelled. You think you're better than us now? And then before I could move, she slapped me. Hard. Her hand cracked across my face before I could even process it. And then Dad grabbed my arm, shoved me hard into the wall. My shoulder hit first, then my head. The corner of the bookshelf caught me near the temple. For a second, everything blurred. Then I felt it warm, blood trickling through my hairline. Across the room, Ava screamed, Mom! She ran toward me, terrified. But Mom stepped in her way. Stay out of this, little girl, she snapped. Maybe if your mother listened like Kayla does, she wouldn't be punished. Punished, like I was a child again. But I wasn't. I was a grown woman, a mother, in my own home, being shoved, slapped, assaulted in front of my daughter. I stood up shaking. Ava was crying now, her little hands trembling. She had seen it all. Everything I'd spent years trying to protect her from, all in one afternoon crashing down, and somewhere inside me something cracked, then shifted. My voice was low, steady, but it carried something I hadn't felt in years. You need to leave, I said through clenched teeth. Dad barked back. We'll leave when you transfer the money. Until then, we're staying. We'll make sure you don't waste any more of it. They sat on my couch. Like they owned the place. Like bleeding on the floor was just another tantrum. Ava curled in the corner, her knees pulled to her chest, silent, shaking. They didn't care. Not about the blood, not about the crying child. All they cared about was Kayla's rent. I locked myself and Ava in our bedroom that night. She crawled into bed beside me, didn't say much, just reached for my hand under the blanket. Mom, she whispered, why do Grandma and Grandpa hate you? I stared at the ceiling. The crack above our heads had grown. I didn't answer, because I didn't know how. But something inside me had already decided this was the last time. The next morning, I drove Ava to school. She sat in the back seat holding her stuffed rabbit. Didn't say much, just looked out the window, her reflection blinking back at her in the glass. I wore sunglasses, not because it was bright, but to cover the swelling around my eye. My hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. Not from fear, from focus. After dropping her off, I didn't go to work. I didn't go home. I drove straight to the courthouse. I walked past families, attorneys, metal detectors, until I reached the clerk's window. "I need to file a restraining order," I said. My voice didn't shake. I had pictures, medical reports, witness statements from the emergency room. They beat me, I told the officer in front of my daughter. Because I wouldn't pay my sister's rent. He didn't even blink. "You did the right thing," he said. "Let us handle the rest." And for the first time, I believed someone might. I walked out of that courthouse lighter. Still bruised, still aching, but lighter. I didn't go home just yet. There was something else I needed to do. 2 years ago, I started saving every raise, every bonus, every freelance gig. I wasn't just putting money aside, I was preparing. And with the help of a quiet investor I once freelanced for, I bought a foreclosure property. Cheap, old, but familiar. It was the house I grew up in, the house my parents now lived in. They didn't know, because I bought it through an LLC. I never told anyone, not even my closest friends. But now I had an idea. If they wanted to remind me what family meant, I'd remind them what boundaries look like. I picked up my phone, called the property manager. "Are they behind on rent again?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "They've skipped 3 months," she said. "We were about to send them a notice." "Don't," I replied. "Let me." I hung up the phone, took a deep breath, then opened my laptop. I drafted a letter. Not angry, not emotional, just facts. A 30-day eviction notice signed by the legal owner. Me. I printed it, folded it neatly, slid it into a certified envelope. That evening, as I made dinner, my phone buzzed. "Dad. You've embarrassed this family. Mom, Ava needs to learn who the real villains are." I didn't reply. They had no idea that even as they typed those words, a courier was on the way to deliver that envelope, the one with their deadline inside. But someone else found out first. 3 days later, I saw her at the grocery store. Vanessa, wearing designer sunglasses and tossing luxury shampoo into her cart. She looked at me like I was dirt beneath her shoes. "You're still playing the victim," she sneered. I smiled. "No," I said. "You're about to watch the stage crumble beneath your spotlight." She blinked, confused, but I didn't explain. I just walked away. The eviction letter arrived the next morning, hand-delivered, stamped, official. I didn't see their faces when they opened it, but I imagined it, the disbelief, the anger, the insult. Mom called first, her voice high and shaking. "How could you do this to us?" she screamed. I didn't raise my voice, didn't tremble. I spoke calmly, clearly. "The same way you hit your daughter in front of her child," I said. "Easy." There was silence, then the whimpering tone I'd heard 100 times before. "Where are we supposed to go?" I paused. Let the silence sit, then replied, "That's your problem." And just before I hung up, I added, "Maybe Kayla can help pay your rent this time." She didn't answer, just the soft, stuttering sound of a woman who finally realized she had run out of people to control, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The following week was chaos, but not for me. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I didn't explain myself to anyone. But my parents, they called every relative they could. Cousins, uncles, old family friends, telling them I was cruel, ungrateful, mentally unstable. They painted themselves as victims, and me as the unloving daughter who turned her back on blood. But I didn't respond, not once. I let them talk. While they were busy trying to rebuild their image, I picked Lily up from school. She climbed into the back seat, swinging her little backpack up beside her. I turned to her at a red light and said, "We're moving." Her eyes lit up. "Really, where to? A place that's truly ours." I had closed on a small house just a few blocks over. Nothing fancy, but it had a fenced yard, her favorite lavender bushes, and something we hadn't known in years: peace. Real quiet, earned peace. While Lily and I unpacked boxes in our new home, the calls from relatives started to slow. I think they began to realize I wasn't going to defend myself, because I didn't need to. My story wasn't theirs to twist anymore. Meanwhile, my parents were scrambling, trying to find a place, begging Vanessa to help. But poetic, isn't it? She was suddenly too busy. According to the last message I got, she had flown out to Miami to clear her head. No forwarding address, no rent money, just a drained Vimo account and an angry voicemail that ended with a hang-up. They were out of options and out of people to blame. I didn't reply, I didn't check in, I didn't offer help. Instead, I posted a photo. Lily standing in front of our tiny house, holding her latest painting, a little home, 2 stick figures, and a smiling sun. The caption read, "We don't live in fear anymore," and we didn't. Exactly 30 days after the notice went out, I drove by the house I once called home, not to watch them suffer, but to close the chapter. Fully. Finally. They had to be out by noon. I parked across the street. Lily sat beside me, holding her sketch pad. She didn't say a word, just watched. The front yard was a mess. Plastic bags, half-broken furniture. My mother's patio swings, rusted at the base, leaning sideways in the grass. My father was pacing the driveway, like a caged animal, confused, cornered. Vanessa wasn't there. She never showed. I stepped out of the car slowly. Lily followed, her tiny fingers gripping mine. As we crossed the street, Mom rushed forward, a suitcase dragging behind her wheels, squealing on the concrete. You can't be serious," she snapped. "We're your family. You're throwing us out like garbage." I looked her in the eyes and said nothing, because for the first time, I didn't owe her a single word. She stood there panting, hair disheveled, eyes wild with disbelief. "We're your parents," she hissed. "You don't do this to family." I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I simply said I was garbage to you when I needed protection. When Ava needed protection. "You hit me," I continued, in my own home, in front of my child. "And now you want sympathy?" Dad stormed toward us, fists clenched. "You think money gives you power?" he growled. "You've become arrogant. You're not special." "No," I replied calmly. "I'm not special. I just stopped being afraid." He pointed his fingers, stepping closer. But I didn't back away. I became the landlord, I said softly, of my own life. "And yours." He reached for my arm, but this time I didn't freeze. "Touch me again," I warned, my voice sharper now, "and the police will arrive faster than your next lie." He stopped, and for a second I saw it in his eyes. He finally knew. He had lost. He stood there, silent, chest heaving with rage he couldn't release. For the first time in my life, Walter, my father looked unsure. Behind me, Lily took a small step forward. She was so quiet, but her voice when it came cut through the air like a bell. "You shouldn't have hurt my mom," she said. "Clear, steady, brave. You lied about love." My mother's lips trembled, but she didn't say sorry. She never did. She just clutched her suitcase tighter as if the handle could hold her pride together. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "No," I said, my voice calm. "I regretted letting you stay this long." They stood there, stripped of control. 2 people who had once ruled by guilt and silence, now powerless in the driveway. Their power was never real. It lived only in my fear. And I had finally buried that. Beside me, Lily reached up, held my hand. We turned away, and we didn't look back. Later that evening, Lily and I sat at the kitchen table in our new home. The sun was dipping low, casting soft gold through the window. Outside, the lavender bushes we planted swayed gently like they'd been waiting for us all along. I poured us tea, chamomile for her, green for me. We didn't speak at first. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful, earned. She swung her legs under the chair, watching the steam curl from her mug. Then she looked up and asked, "Do you feel better now?" I paused, thought for a moment. "I feel clean," I said, like something heavy was finally washed away. She nodded like she understood, like maybe she felt it too. We weren't running anymore. We were rebuilding, slowly, gently, honestly. Not just a home, but our sense of worth, our place in the world. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept without fear in my chest. A few weeks passed. Our days grew quieter. Routine, but in the best way. Lily started painting more. I started therapy. We both began to heal from things we never had words for. One afternoon, I got a message. A distant cousin, someone I hadn't heard from in years. "They're living above a closed nail salon now," she wrote. 1 bedroom, no kitchen, no help. Vanessa had ghosted them, left behind an angry voicemail and an empty bank account. No one came to save them, because they had burned every bridge and never looked back to see the ashes. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I simply closed the message, set down my phone, and turned toward the living room. Lily sat cross-legged on the rug, holding up her latest painting. A little house, 2 stick figures, a bright yellow sun smiling in the sky. She looked up and said, "Mom, we're really safe now, right?" I smiled. "Yes, baby, we are." The days had a rhythm now. Soft, predictable, no sudden knocks on the door, no guilt-drenched messages, no one demanding pieces of me I couldn't afford to give. Lily would wake early, shuffle into the kitchen in her fuzzy socks, and ask if we could walk to school just to see the lavender. I always said yes. She held my hand a little tighter these days, not out of fear, but because she could feel it too, that we were finally free. Sometimes in the late afternoons, I'd sit on the porch with a cup of tea watching her draw in the fading light. The hum of life around us was gentle. Neighbors waved, birds settled into the trees, and in that new kind of quiet I realized something. It wasn't revenge that brought peace. It was distance, boundaries, courage, and the decision to stop bleeding for people who never brought a bandage. We were healing. One quiet day at a time. There was a time I would have written long texts, apologies I didn't owe. Explanations no one truly listened to. But not anymore. I didn't explain myself to relatives who asked what really happened. I didn't justify the eviction. I didn't unpack the years of manipulation for anyone's understanding. Because people who cared already knew, and those who didn't never would. One of my aunts reached out, left a voicemail, her tone cold. "Family is everything. One day you'll realize what you've done." I didn't call her back, because I had realized what I'd done. I had broken a cycle, drawn a line in the sand, protected my child the way no one protected me. It didn't feel heartless. It felt necessary, like pulling a splinter that had lived too long under the skin. And the silence I kept, it wasn't weakness anymore, it was strength, pure, quiet, and finally mine. The first time I said no to my parents, it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it didn't come with a speech, it was a simple refusal, a quiet boundary. And yet, it shook everything, because for people who are used to controlling you, your silence, your peace, your distance, those things scream louder than rage ever could. I used to believe I owed them. For giving me life, for putting food on the table, for raising me. But survival isn't the same as love, and control is not care. Now I say no without guilt. No, I won't cover your rent. No, I won't return your calls. No, you don't get access to me just because we share blood. And in each no, I've made space for more important yeses. Yes to Lily's laughter. Yes to our quiet mornings. Yes to this new life free from fear, free from shame. Saying no saved us. And I will never apologize for it. Lily notices everything. She always has. The way I exhale deeper now, how I smile without forcing it, how I sit on the couch without flinching at every text notification. One evening, as we folded laundry together, she looked up and said, "You're not sad all the time anymore." I paused, held a shirt in my hands for a moment too long, then nodded. "You're right," I whispered, because she was right. She had seen the worst of it, the yelling, the blood, the nights I couldn't sleep. But now she was seeing the other side too. Me showing up to her school play without looking exhausted. Me making pancakes on a random Tuesday just because. Me humming softly while brushing her hair. She was watching me heal, not just survive, heal. And I realized that's the greatest gift I could give her. Not perfection, not endless sacrifice, but proof that broken things can grow again. Even mothers. Especially mothers. One morning while sipping my tea, I thought about my mother. Not in anger, not even in sadness. Just clarity. She was raised hard, taught that love meant control, that obedience was safety, that silence was survival. And she passed it all on to me, the guilt, the shame, the buried voice. But I refused to pass it to Lily. The pain stops with me. No more pretending. No more swallowing hurt to keep the peace. No more normalizing what was never okay. Because cycles don't end on their own. They have to be broken. Deliberately, gently, sometimes painfully. And yes, there are days I still hear the old voice in my head. You're selfish. You're dramatic. You'll regret this. But that voice is no longer mine. It belongs to a past I've outgrown. I stir my tea, look out at our tiny garden, and remind myself the strongest thing I've ever done was refuse to become them. There was a time I answered every accusation, every insult, every manipulative message wrapped in guilt. But now I let them echo into silence. Because I've learned not everything deserves a response. Not every opinion needs correcting. Not every lie needs defending. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Last week, my cousin forwarded me a screenshot, another post from my parents. It read, "Some children forget who raised them. They forget loyalty, gratitude." I didn't respond. I didn't feel the heat rise in my chest, didn't clench my jaw, didn't pace the room. Instead, I turned off my phone, stepped outside, and watered the lavender. The soil was dry, but it bloomed anyway. Just like us. Let them talk, because the people who truly know me don't need an explanation. And the people who demand one never really cared for the truth. Healing didn't arrive like a lightning bolt. It came in small, quiet moments. Moments so gentle I almost missed them. Like the first time Lily laughed so hard she snorted, and we both couldn't stop giggling for 5 straight minutes. Or the morning I realized I hadn't woken up with that heavy weight in my chest. No dread, no tension, just breath. Easy, quiet breath. We started cooking dinner together. Simple meals. Messy, imperfect, full of laughter. She put stickers on the fridge, drawings on the walls, shoes by the front door like she belonged because she did. And me, I no longer apologized for taking up space. I danced a little when our favorite song came on. I bought a new blanket, one that felt like softness, like safety. These small joys, they were my proof. That peace wasn't loud, it was steady, patient, and it was ours, every bit of it earned. It didn't happen all at once, but slowly, room by room, this little house began to feel like home. Not just a place we lived, but a place that reflected who we were becoming. We painted the kitchen a warm, pale yellow, hung Lily's drawings in mismatched frames along the hallway, put up wind chimes on the porch just to hear something gentle when the breeze passed through. There was no designer couch, no expensive rugs, but there was light. And warmth and space to exhale. Lily said one evening, "This house feels like us." And she was right. It didn't hide bruises behind closed doors. It didn't echo with shouting or shame. It held laughter and the scent of cinnamon toast and a silence that didn't sting. Sometimes healing isn't about moving far away. It's about creating one small corner of the world where your nervous system can finally rest. We had found ours, and we protected it with everything we had. For a long time, I thought healing meant closure, that someday they'd apologize, that my mother would look me in the eyes and say, "I'm sorry for not protecting you," that my father would finally admit I was wrong to hurt you. But those words never came, and one day, I stopped needing them. I stopped checking my messages for explanations, stopped imagining some tearful confession that would make sense of the past. Because the truth is, some people never say sorry, not because they don't know they're wrong, but because control matters more than reconciliation. I realized that waiting for their apology kept me tied to the hurt. It gave them space in my life they hadn't earned. So I let it go. Not for them, for me. Healing isn't about what they say, it's about what I choose to carry forward. And I've chosen this peace over permission, freedom over approval, and a life that no longer includes begging to be understood. There was a time Lily's eyes held shadows, the kind children shouldn't carry. She was always watching me adore her surroundings, measuring the room for danger before she even understood what danger was. But now, those shadows are gone. She runs barefoot across the hallway, draws happy faces without being asked, laughs from her belly, loud and unfiltered. Last week, we were walking home from school. She skipped beside me, swinging her backpack, then suddenly stopped. "You don't cry in the bathroom anymore," she said. It hit me like a soft thunder. She had noticed, even when I thought I was hiding. I knelt down, looked her in the eyes. "You're right," I whispered. "I don't." And I meant it, because the version of me she sees now isn't broken, isn't scared. She sees a mother who chose to get up, to stand tall, and more than anything, a mother who finally stayed up. One evening, I sat on the porch with an old photo album. The edges were worn. The pages yellowed with time. Inside were pictures from my childhood. Smiles posed for the camera, holidays, birthdays, forced hugs, but I knew the stories behind those frozen moments. The yelling before the candles, the silence after the gifts, the bruises never seen. I closed the album, held it in my lap, and I made a quiet promise. It ends with me. The legacy of fear, of silence, of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I wouldn't pass it to Lily, not even a piece of it. She would grow up knowing love that wasn't conditional, safety that didn't shift with moods, affection that didn't leave bruises. That night, she crawled into my lap with a blanket, rested her head on my shoulder, and said, "I like who you are now, Mom." I held her tighter. "I do too," I whispered. And I meant every word. Healing isn't perfect. It's not a straight line. There are still days that pull me back, moments that sting out of nowhere. A smell, a voice tone, a slammed door in a grocery store. Suddenly, I'm 8 years old again, standing in a kitchen, trying not to cry too loud. But the difference now, I don't stay there. I breathe. I name it. I remind myself. That was then. This is now. The fear is a ghost, and I don't have to invite it to stay for dinner. Sometimes Lily notices. She'll pause, tilt her head, and ask, "Bad memory?" I nod, and she hugs me tight, not because I'm broken, but because we both know what it means to survive. Triggers may come, but they don't own me anymore. I don't live in the house of fear. I built a new one. With light, with lavender, with locked doors that I hold the keys to. There was a time I believed I had to earn peace. That I needed approval from family, from tradition, from people who never saw me. But peace doesn't ask for permission. It arrives when you stop begging for crumbs from tables that never fed you. I no longer explain why I walked away, why I set boundaries, why I said enough. Because peace isn't loud. It doesn't defend itself. It just exists, quiet and steady inside the life I chose. I see it in the way Lily sings to herself while brushing her teeth. In the calm of our living room at night, blankets, soft windows open, no tension in the air. I feel it when I go to sleep without my jaw clenched. When I wake up and don't dread the day. No one gave me this peace. I wasn't handed it. I fought for it. Piece by piece, word by word. No after brave, no. And I'll never trade it back. Not for anyone. It's not always grand. Freedom isn't fireworks or fanfare. Sometimes it's waking up and realizing you don't flinch at the sound of your phone. It's cooking dinner without a pit in your stomach. It's walking through your own front door without bracing for tension on the other side. That is what freedom feels like. Last Saturday, Lily and I danced in the kitchen. No music, just our own silly rhythm. She spun in socks, giggling. I laughed so hard I had to lean on the counter. For a moment, I paused. And I realized this was it. Not a destination, not a victory speech, just this. A child laughing, a woman at ease, a home that holds more love than fear. Freedom doesn't always look brave. Sometimes it looks like rest, like soft mornings, like not having to explain yourself ever again. And as I watched Lily fall asleep that night, arms wrapped around her stuffed rabbit, I thought to myself, we made it. Every now and then, someone from the old life reaches out. A message. A whispered comment through a mutual connection. Your parents still talk about you. They say you turned cold. They just want to understand. But the truth is, they never wanted to understand. Only to be obeyed. Only to stay in control. I used to ache when I heard those words. Used to wonder if I was being too harsh, too final. But now I let it pass. Because peace taught me something grief never could. You don't have to open the door just because someone knocks. Let them talk. Let them rewrite the story for anyone who'll listen. I no longer defend my choices to people who never defended me. The life I've built speaks for itself. Lily sleeps soundly. I laugh easily. We live freely. And in this quiet, steady joy, their voices no longer echo. Because I've stopped listening. There was a moment last week, simple, quiet, that caught me off guard. Lily and I were reading on the couch. She was curled beside me, her head resting gently on my shoulder. The sun poured in through the window, lighting up the dust in the air like soft gold. She looked up and said, "I like it here. It feels safe. Safe." That word held weight, because for so long I didn't know what safe felt like. I knew how to survive, how to stay small, how to tiptoe around people I loved just to keep the peace. But this was different. No shouting, no tension, no walking on eggshells, just breath and belonging. I kissed the top of her head. "You're safe here," I whispered, "always." And in saying it, I knew I was talking to both of us, because for the first time in my life, I believed it too. It didn't come with a big moment. No tears, no mirror speech, just a quiet morning. A sink full of dishes, sunlight slipping through the window like a warm sigh. I was rinsing a cup when it hit me I had spent years blaming myself for staying too long, for not standing up sooner, for letting Lily see what she saw. I used to replay it all, wishing I had acted differently, spoken louder, fought back. But that day, as the water ran and the soap swirled, I exhaled something I didn't know I'd been holding. And I said it aloud to no one in particular, just the walls of this home that had seen my healing. I forgive you. Not them, me, for surviving the best I could, for doing what I knew, for trying to keep everyone else afloat while I was drowning. And in that moment, something inside me settled. Not everything healed, but everything softened. I used to wake up every day already bracing for conflict, a glance, a comment, the shift in someone's tone. Always guessing, always adjusting just to avoid the next explosion. That's what life feels like when love is tied to fear. You tiptoe through your own home, hold your breath when the phone rings, smile when it hurts just to keep everything from falling apart. But I don't do that anymore. Now I walk freely. No more eggshells, no more apology tucked into every sentence. I say what I mean. I ask for space when I need it. I say no without explaining. And the world didn't collapse. No one came to punish me. The sky didn't fall. Instead, my daughter started doing it too. She speaks up, draws boundaries, says, "I don't like that," with a calm, steady voice. Because when a child grows up in safety, they don't have to learn how to survive. They just learn how to be. For years, I made myself small. In conversations, in rooms, in life, I spoke softly so no one felt challenged, dressed modestly so I wouldn't draw attention, swallowed my needs like they were a burden, because somewhere along the line I was taught that being quiet made me good, that shrinking made me safe, that disappearing made me lovable. But I'm not doing that anymore. I take up space now. I laugh without checking who's listening. I wear colors that make me feel alive. I say what I want even if it makes others uncomfortable. Because shrinking didn't protect me. It only erased me. And I want Lily to see her mother fully. Present, whole, unafraid. The other day she looked at me across the table and said, "You look like someone who knows who she is." I smiled. "I do," I said, "and I'm never giving her up again." Some nights the memories still visit me, not as nightmares but as soft echoes. A hallway, a slammed door, the sound of my mother's voice saying, "You're just like your father," and sometimes I feel the ache, not for them but for what I wish they could have been, a mother who nurtured, a father who protected, a family that didn't confuse fear with loyalty, that grief. It doesn't mean I want them back. It means I finally understand what I deserved all along. And grieving the parents I didn't have is part of healing the child I used to be. There's no shame in mourning a version of love that never arrived, only honesty and release. Lily once asked me, "Do you miss them?" I thought for a moment and said, "I miss the idea of them, but not the reality." And she nodded as if her little heart already understood some love has to be let go to make room for real peace. In my childhood house, there were rooms we didn't enter, conversations we didn't have, feelings we weren't allowed to feel, secrets lived in the silence, pain was swept under rugs, and truth was something you whispered, if you dared say it at all. But in this house, our house, nothing stays hidden. If Lily is upset, she says so. If I'm having a hard day, I tell her gently. We talk. We cry, we laugh loudly, we ask questions, we listen without judgment, without fear. This house doesn't run on shame, it runs on honesty. Last week, Lily sat beside me after school. She looked nervous. I yelled at my friend today. She said, "I feel bad." I didn't scold her, didn't say, "That's not nice." I just asked, "Do you know why you yelled?" She nodded. We talked it through. That's what safety looks like, not perfection, but truth held gently. This home has no secrets, only light. There were so many times growing up when I wished someone would hold me and say, "It's not your fault." That someone would sit beside me in the dark and just stay, not to fix me, but to see me. That someone would remind me I was worthy even when I cried, even when I failed, even when I wasn't useful. I never got that. But now I give it to Lily, and slowly I give it to myself. When she's overwhelmed, I sit on the floor with her. I don't rush her feelings. I let them breathe. When she messes up, I remind her she's still good, still loved. And each time I offer her that grace, something inside me heals too. Because I'm not just raising her, I'm re-raising the little girl I used to be. The mother I needed, I became her. And that is a legacy I'm proud to leave. There was a time when everything was whispered. Pain, anger, even joy, because in that old house, if you were too loud, someone would shut you down. So I learned to keep my voice small, my needs quieter, my dreams tucked safely behind silence. But in this home, we don't whisper anymore. We speak, clearly, kindly, boldly. If something hurts, we say it. If something feels unfair, we name it. If something brings joy, we celebrate it out loud. The other night, Lily stood on a chair holding her drawing above her head. "This is my best one yet," she shouted. And I clapped, cheered, told her I agreed. We were laughing so hard we forgot the cookies in the oven, but that's what freedom looks like. Messy, honest, loud. We don't walk on eggshells. We walk barefoot on soft rugs through rooms filled with warmth and truth. Because in this house, our voices are finally safe. It was a quiet Sunday morning, sunlight filtering through the curtains. Lily sat at the table leg, swinging beneath her chair, paintbrush in hand. She was focused, calm, the kind of peace I once thought didn't exist. When she finished, she held it up. A small painting, our house, 2 stick figures, and a bright yellow sun smiling above us. She looked at me and said, "Can we hang it in the living room?" I nodded. My voice caught in my throat. We taped it gently to the wall right above the bookshelf, the one I built with my own hands, and then I stepped back and read the words she had written beneath it. "We don't live in fear anymore." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't shouted. It was quiet, certain, true. The cycle is broken. The past is behind us. And the future, it's ours now. Not perfect, but free, and deeply, deeply ours. If any part of this story touched your heart, if you've ever walked through pain, set boundaries, or found your voice after silence, you're not alone. We don't live in fear anymore. And maybe you're ready to say the same. Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, stories of healing strength and quiet courage, make sure to subscribe. There's more to come, and we'd love to walk that journey with you.